welcome to the debut episode of BKL Nightly. We're going to be on 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday, and after every single Bills game day. Our goal, to wrap up that day's Bills news, provide you all the sound bites, all the information important to what the Bills are doing that weekend in whatever game they play. Plus, you will hear from the Bills Kickoff Live team with our opinions, our reactions, our interpretations of what's going on here at One Bills Drive. And we'll provide you some feature stories and some bonus items we don't think you can find anywhere else. Let's get on with the show. No need to wait any longer. We now go in studio with Rachel Liebert.
Thank you very much, Thad. Welcome to the first episode of BKL Nightly. I am Rachel Liebert. As Thad mentioned, we're here to give you all your Bills news for the day heading into this big Sunday night matchup against the Ravens. Now, the news of the day, we got to start with some injuries first and foremost. The big news of the day, everybody's been waiting to see what is going on with Trey White. Well, today we kind of got a little bit of an answer. Trey White has a groin injury. He did not practice today. Still no word yet if he will play for Sunday, but people were wondering if it was lower leg, kind of what was the deal with Trey White being this guy that is expected to have a big role this year. And, not too much of an update, just that it is a groin injury and he did not practice today. We do have some better news, though, maybe trending in the right direction for another piece of the Bills secondary. Christian Benford, he did practice today, returned to practice for the first time in a few days, and he also was limited with a groin injury. Seems like groin injuries are kind of what the Bills have been dealing with in this defensive group, and some other guys we'll talk about in a little bit. But Christian Benford, Sean McDermott was asked if Benford would be a guy out there on Sunday night, and he said, we'll see. So not yet ruling him out, but not yet saying he will play. Now, because Benford is injured and because Trey White is also up in the air, we might get to see some of those younger guys. You can kind of see right now, Jamarcus Ingram, as well as Dorian Strong. We'll get into them a little bit later. They might get some opportunities just with, these injuries that have been plaguing the Bills, it seems like, all preseason. And we'll kind of get into a little bit more of the injuries going on here with the William Mattar injury report. We've got Keon Coleman, a little bit of a shock. Also, a groin injury, was limited today. Not a good thing to see from the wide receiver group, who has an injury in Khalil Shakir, which, as you can see on your screen now, he is full. He did practice in full today, so that is a good sign, but not a good sign when, you have one receiver back and then one receiver goes down. So we'll see where Keon Coleman is. Doesn't seem like anything, too super serious. We didn't get any, crazy updates on him today, but he was limited. Tyler Bass also limited today. He's been dealing with injuries. We've, seen Ray Davis come in to kick for him and just, different things like that. Tyler Bass hasn't been completely healthy, but he was limited today as well, left hip and groin. Of course, Dwayne Carter is out for the season, was listed on the injury report, though, with an Achilles, tore his Achilles. And then, like I said, Khalil Shakir, ankle injury, but was full practice today. Looks like he was smiling and he was having a good time out there. So good things to see for Shakir. The other guys will kind of have to wait and see where that goes. All right, so speaking of, or getting away from injuries, we still actually on the path of injuries. We kind of talk about these guys that could step up in the wake of these injuries. They got some young corners, some young guys that could, be a crucial part of this defense this weekend, especially against a Ravens team that has a pretty strong offense, beat the Bills in the regular season last year. So we can see these younger guys getting their chance to potentially step up this year. So Thad Brown was out in Orchard Park today, talked to some of those cornerbacks, and here's what they had to say about as far as if they feel they're ready for the chance to play Sunday night.
We found out on Wednesday what the injury issues are with both Trey White and Christian Benford, both dealing with groin issues. White did not practice Wednesday. Benford was limited. Core muscle things can be difficult to overcome. So the Bills may have to turn to either Jamarcus Ingram or Dorian Strong against the Ravens Sunday night. Ingram is in year 4 here with the Bills. He's got a couple hundred snaps worth of defensive experience. Strong is a rookie. Both on Wednesday talked about why they feel good if they have to be on the field Sunday night.
Every day coming to work and just getting better. I think sharpening my knife and sharpening my craft, I think that just helped me go out there and play with confidence and be able to take on the role, whatever that role may be.
I feel very prepared. I feel very comfortable. I feel very confident Just in my play, you know what I'm saying, like just the past couple of practices have been really good practices for me, making plays on the ball. So my confidence is getting there.
Yeah, they'll be ready. Those guys, they take a lot of pride in the preparation piece of things. Dorian obviously being new to us, but we've got great leadership on this team that can set a good example for them all the while.
Whatever happens, like, we all can ball and we all can go in and make plays, and we feed off each other, you know, just giving each other confidence and, you know, just speaking life into one another.
It's gonna be dope. You feel me? Like I said, like it's a hometown team. So like I said, we're going out here, gonna make a statement. We're gonna play Bills ball. We're gonna play our caliber football, and we're gonna have a game.
As Strong said, he is from the Baltimore area, grew up about an hour south, and said he was a Ravens fan as a kid. Now, while it's exciting for him to open his career against his hometown team, he made the point that, look, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bengals, whoever, everybody's going to be an NFL team. Everything will be a unique experience. As for his Ravens fandom, Strong said, quote, now that's over with.
A lot of opportunities for some of these young guys to step up in the wake of these Bills injuries like we've seen this preseason on both sides of the ball. But, you know, obviously a good opportunity for these young guys to get some reps, and they seem pretty confident. So we'll see how that goes Sunday night, and we'll keep you updated with whether or not those veteran guys are going to be out there as the week goes on. Now, kind of transitioning into the Bills captains this year, was announced a few days ago, yesterday. No surprise that Josh Allen, number 17, is one of those captains, and Terrell Bernard also coming back for year 2 of being a captain. Today, Terrell, talked about just what that means to him, what he's learned in that last year of just being that first-year guy last year, and with Josh Allen, it being his 7th year in a row leading this team. So here's Terrell Bernard just kind of taking away what he learned last year as captain and what he's going to apply to this season.
You're friends with a lot of guys, and at the end of the day, that's what makes it effective, I think, in my opinion. I've got relationships with these guys outside of football, so if I have to say something or if they say something to me, it's never personal. It's always, trying to get the best out of them and, get the best out of me.
You watch him play, the way he communicates, the way that he puts his body on the line, the way he talks to his teammates, the way that he works. He's in the building damn near 24/7, working on his body, doing rehab, doing prehab, watching film while he's doing it. Just a true example for guys to learn from of how to be a true pro.
A true pro is how Josh Allen describes him. I think that's a pretty cool thing to say. He's, been in the building, kind of showing those guys how to get it done, and he can be a leader on this defense. Someone who hasn't dealt with injury this year, I believe, maybe a little bit in the beginning of training camp, but yeah, just good stuff from the captains, and as expected, no surprise, with who will be leading the team this year. All right, so it is now time to go to our BKL crew, our roundtable discussion. Carl Jones, Josh Reed, and Thad Brown. After practice, Bills practice today, they talked a little bit about the injuries, kind of what it means for different guys, just all you would need to know going into Sunday night's matchup. Here they are.
Time for the BKL Nightly Roundtable. Josh Reed, Carl Jones with me. Week 1 with the Ravens on the way. But, guys, the Bills do have an injury question mark at corner. We don't know if Trey Waite's going to be available. Dorian Strong, Jamarcus Ingram both talked about how ready they are. Saying you're ready is one thing, Josh. Going up against Lamar and that number 1 offense, a whole different thing.
Yeah, especially when you're Dorian Strong, who's a rookie. You talk about getting tossed right into the fire, going up against one of the best offenses in the NFL. Had a chance to ask Sean McDermott what it's going to be like for these rookies to face those 2 guys in particular, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And Sean basically said, look, you don't know until you're actually on the field and you get those live bullets firing at you. So it's going to be a huge test for those guys.
I had the unfortunate privilege of playing one of those guys before. And let's just say it's one thing when you have it written up on the whiteboard, and it's something totally different when you're out there on the field, especially with how explosive they are. Welcome to the NFL, rookies. Welcome to the NFL.
Kyle, let me ask you one thing quick. With Strong and Ingram, if either one has to play, we're talking about corner 5 and 6 on the original depth chart, 3, 4, and 5, whatever it is. I do feel better about those 2 guys having to play. Like, the bottom of the depth chart, I think, is better than you'd think on most teams. Do you think so, too?
I agree as well. When you look around the National Football League, the depth charts, especially in the secondary, not so great. I think here in Buffalo, you can feel confident rolling these guys out there for 1 or 2 weeks. Now, the season, I don't think that's ideal. But for week 1, especially against an offense that, hey, they're not going to be asked to cover a lot. They're going to be like, hey, are you willing to tackle Derrick Henry in the hole? And that's not really a depth thing. That's like, hey, do you have the heart to do that or not.
Yeah, it's not like they're facing A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith week 1.
And one of the things that's going to be interesting, and we'll see how it plays out, but, Christian Benford maybe gets locked up a little bit more in one-on-one and maybe shadows. Maybe it's Zay Flowers. I would think that'd be the guy who it would be. And then maybe they shade the safety over a little bit to help out. Whether it's, even if it is Trey White, maybe they shade the safety a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see what Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbage come up with.
You do have that option with 47 on the one side to just say, you take this side and we'll worry about everything else together. Now, everything else is a lot. It's Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And we talked about Strong and Ingram might have to play. We know T.J. Sanders and Deion Walker are going to be on the field some way, some form. Dealing with this run game in game 1, to me, seems like a pretty Herculean chore.
Yeah, I just don't know how. Look, week 1 in the NFL, it's your NFL debut. You're all fired up and everything, and then you realize on the other side of the ball, this ain't the SEC anymore. Look, they went up against some of the best players in college football, but those guys didn't look anything like Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry, and we talked about some of the weapons that they have on the outside. They're going to rely heavily on these young guys, in particular early on in the season, so they're going to need them to step up and make some plays.
These are the games that you bring guys like a Deion Walker and T.J. Sanders to Buffalo for, though. These games where, hey, even on paper, we need you to swing the tide a little bit, physical, run downhill. Are you willing to, you see 22 running down the A-gap, are you willing to go in there and make a play? That's what the Bills brought T.J. Sanders and Deion Walker here to do.
From what we've seen from those two guys in preseason, my reaction is that I'm not quite sure these two are ready for this game. And look, it's week 1. How many rookies are, to be fair? But what I'm saying is I think what we've seen from preseason, I think is below, at least in the run game, what you hope to get from these two. But it's preseason. How nervous do you think people should be about that?
I think in terms of the run, yeah, I would be very nervous. I mean, Deion Walker, that wasn't his calling card even at Kentucky. I know he's a big man, so everyone assumes like he's just this run plugger. He's more of, like Ed Oliver said, a dancing bear, a ballerina to a certain extent. He's really good at getting after the quarterback. With the Ravens, they got guards pulling tight ends, pulling Lamar Jackson going this way and all that. They're going to have to really just slow the game down, rely on their keys, and that's much easier said than done in game 1.
I grabbed Jordan Poyer coming off the practice field and said, look, you're a guy that's faced Lamar and Derrick Henry a lot during your career. What do you tell some of these first-year players? And he said, look, these guys have watched him on TV, I'm sure, for years, but it's way different when you get on the field. He said the key is having a short memory. Lamar Jackson is going to make plays. This is from Jordan Poyer. He said, look, Lamar's going to make plays. That's the reason he's the MVP. But you got to make sure you have a short memory and don't let it snowball.
How much fun is this week 1 opener going to be? I think the answer to that is easy. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let me frame it to you guys this way, though. I think there are a lot of Bills fans out there looking at this as, well, this might be the 1 seed. This is going to be the game that determines it. The guys in this locker room are not going to put that high a price in this game. It's going to be just another regular season game. How much should we make of who wins and who loses this week 1 game?
Yeah, and the message that you're talking about, that starts with Sean McDermott. We had a chance to hear from him at the press conference that he holds every Wednesday, and he said, we got to keep this in mind. Week 1 is not going to dictate your entire season. And he put an emphasis that he says that he kind of tries to drill home with his team every year is you have to ascend as the year goes on. And I think that's one of the traits that we've seen with Sean's teams in the past.
It's a long season, an extremely long season. You don't want to ride this roller coaster of some games you're up, some games you're down. It's just, that's not good for the human soul at this point in the year, right? So it sounds good. They're like, hey, let's be even keel. But let's be frank here, guys. 8-20 rolls out, 17 versus 8. I'm sure the guys are going to be a little juiced up to play.
Well, more important, not just Sunday night, Monday morning is when it's really going to hit the fan, right? Monday morning, the team that wins this game is going undefeated, Super Bowl champs. The team that loses, fire everybody and bench everybody, because that is the NFL.
The last point to make with this is that you think about regular season matchups, Bills-Ravens, Bills-Chiefs. The winner of the regular season game is yet to win in the playoffs. So does this game matter at all? Probably not, but it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Mitch Trubisky, you're starting a quarterback. If that's the theory.
Now, look, it's still an entertainment product. You got to roll 17 out there, or there's going to be pitchforks and torches and stuff like that. All right, Carl Jones, Josh Reed, thanks for joining me. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you to the BKL crew. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we will have answers to all your pressing questions that you asked Thad Brown over on Twitter. That is after a short break. back on BKL Nightly. It is time to dip into the mailbag, a weekly segment where we ask you guys to ask us some questions. And Thad Brown is out in Orchard Park right now, ready to answer everything you need to know before this Ravens game on Sunday. So first question is from X-user at Mr. Ed315. Mr. Ed315 wants to know, Thad, scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this roster and why?
I think it's a great question, and I think I ended up landing on a 7. I started a little higher, but the more you think about it, I do have questions about the depth on defense. I don't want to overreact to preseason, but I think the facts are we haven't seen enough from what we have seen in the preseason to feel confident if the Bills have to go with someone other than the starters. And obviously, we might have that situation Sunday night because Trey White and Christian Benford are both, at this point, fairly big questions to be on the field. In addition, look, the Bills have a lot of options for upgrading the defense. TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, Michael Hoyt, Joey Bosa. These are all guys who, in theory, and not even having to reach that far to think about it, could be big-time impact makers for this Bills defense. But I don't feel confident about any one player really having that much of an impact. Bosa certainly would lead the list. I think Deion Walker has been frisky in preseason, but the jury very much is still out on a lot of those guys. And for rookies, it should be right now. Offensively, I think the Bills are pretty stacked, but it's the same offense we saw last year. As long as the O-line and James Cook are healthy and playing at the level they were at last year, I don't know how much the receiving group matters. I think the receiving group is probably a little bit better because Amari Cooper really didn't offer them much last year. But overall, look, this is a team built on number 17 being otherworldly, and he has been, the offensive line being exceptional, and it has been, and then a few pieces here and there, but the extraneous pieces, the supporting pieces to me aren't special enough to take the roster anything above a 7. Now look, Josh Allen is going to take any roster and upgrade at a 1.5. So if you're a 5, you're really a 6.5. For the Bills, a 7 is an 8.5 or a 9 just because of Josh Allen. But really looking at the roster, Rachel, I land on a 7.
Now you mentioned the defensive injuries kind of being a thing to watch this weekend, and with the Ravens run game, we have Lamar Jackson, we have Derrick Henry. User at Cognetti Rick wants to know, how do the Bills stop the run this weekend?
Yeah, well, good question. I mean, I think the answer to that is they probably won't stop it, but I think they've seen it enough to understand what they have to do. You hear a lot from these guys about a lot of hats to the ball. Look, no one wants to take on Derrick Henry by themselves, so you do need teammates to be able to rally up and make it 4 or 5 guys tackling him, not one. The other thing is, and especially when it comes to teaching the rookies how to play defense, and we talked a lot about that. We've heard more from that in the show already, or we will later on tonight. But making sure the rookies understand that you don't want to get overwhelmed by the big picture. Oh my goodness, it's Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. You just got to worry about your gap, taking on the guard or the center in front of you and just doing your job. And that really extends to everybody on this defense. Look, the Ravens are going to make plays. Lamar Jackson is an MVP for a reason, same as Josh Allen. But being able to have that short memory, keep things small, keep it to this play, not the last 4, that'll be the key for the Bills to hang in. I think there are a lot of questions about whether or not they can be effective enough to win the game. I rewatched that playoff game from last year. In the second half, the Ravens did a lot of anything they wanted when it comes to the run game. How much better some of these guys can be, how much of a difference maker they can be in that particular area, I think is very much in question Sunday night.
Now our final question here from X-user at BrevitUp. Have you seen enough from the D-line to help the secondary out?
Not yet. It can be, again, look, Joey Bosa by himself can be a difference maker. If we get Joey Bosa from 3 years ago, even for just this game Sunday night, that totally changes the equation on defense. And I think that's where the Bills want to start. After that, could TJ Sanders be an impact player? Sure. Deion Walker has shown some ability to get to the quarterback, I think more so than most people thought. So that's a guy that could also have a help. Sitting here right now, do I think they have enough to really make the issues in the secondary irrelevant or irrelevant enough? I think the answer right now is no, but there are certainly plenty of options that could change that Sunday night. Again, we're basing a lot of this on what we've seen in practices, in preseason games, where it is not full go, it is not 100% football. That all changes Sunday night. So, what we're going to see in 60 minutes against the Ravens means a whole lot more than what we saw in the 6 weeks before that. So a lot of questions still to be answered. But if I got to answer that question right now, which is kind of the point of this segment, I think the answer right now is no.
All right, thank you, Thad. That's going to wrap up our weekly mailbag segment. Of course, you can ask Thad questions every week at ThadBrown7 on X, but that is going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week. All your pressing questions, head over to Twitter, over to X, and you can ask Thad Brown all you want to know before each game. Thank you, Thad. All right. Like I said, you can ask Thad questions every Wednesday on X and get all of your answers that you want to know for the upcoming game this week. Well, all right, let's transition to Highmark Stadium. People love Highmark Stadium, the last year of Highmark Stadium, and Bills fans want to know how they can get a piece of Highmark Stadium, how they can go about, the right way of getting a memory of the last year of the stadium that holds so many memories for so many fans. And today after practice, the VP of Fan Experience, Andy Major, kind of gives some insight as to, how fans can stay connected to Highmark Stadium, go about getting their memories the right way. And here's what he had to say after practice.
There is a plan for them. They can purchase their seats. They can possibly purchase some pieces of the stadium and the turf and all that good stuff. So that's been out there, and that's been something that we've been working very closely with the county on. So we're really excited to roll that out for the fans. And yeah, we want the fans to take advantage of that program and not do anything silly in the stadium, or we don't need the knuckleheads trying to steal their seats or steal, things off the wall. We have a long season ahead and a lot of excitement ahead. We still hopefully have some playoff games in January as well. I know that's our goal, is to play through January and have that home field advantage and have everybody have a seat to sit in to enjoy those games.
People, of course, love Highmark Stadium, and they love Buffalo. And you know who else loves Buffalo? Sean McDermott. Now, Sean McDermott, when he came to the Bills for his first season, the Bills, as I'm sure many of you know, as Bills fans, very long playoff drought for the Bills, 17 years. Sean McDermott came in first year and turned that around. So a few weeks ago, people, Sean McDermott was asked, when did he feel that he was truly a Buffalonian? Is that what you would call it? A Buffalonian. When did he truly feel, that he belonged in Buffalo, that he kind of earned his spot with the Bills? Here's what he had to say.
That's when it hit my heart, was when I saw the reaction when we made the playoffs.
At the airport?
Before that.
Oh.
Like, we were in the locker room in Miami. Yeah. Some of my family was there. You could hear the reaction above us in the concourse when that play unfolded, and then on top of that, getting back home, but even on the way back, you're hey, look at this video I'm seeing of this bar in wherever, Tonawanda, whatever, and you're just watching, and then you're watching people diving in the snow, and that's when it really hit my heart, that I was like, we're here for a reason, and it goes well beyond the football field.
Cool stuff from Sean McDermott there. It's cool to see the emotion. I think the last few days we've seen a little bit of emotion from him, from some players, and it's just cool. Sean McDermott ended that playoff drought, and of course the next step everybody is waiting to see is a Super Bowl. So we'll see if the Bills can get it done this year, last year at Highmark Stadium. All right, well, that is going to do it for episode 1, night 1 of BKL Nightly. For everybody wanting to watch us again, we'll be back tomorrow and have all of your information leading up to Sunday night's highly anticipated matchup, Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. All right, for now, for Thad Brown, for Josh Reed, for Carl Jones, I'm Rachel Liebert. We will see you tomorrow.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.